It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin a Monday. Gary, good morning. How are you?
Same, different day, same, you know.
Yeah.
You ready for the same
soup,
ready for the
day.
same, you know?
Go ahead.
Here's some of the same, you know.
Mm-hmm. Stand up against the poison of white supremacy, as I did my inaugural address, to single out as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy. And I'm not saying this because I'm at a black HBCU.
Yeah, you are.
That's the only reason you're saying it.
Stop with your pathological line.
Yeah.
We'll get to more of that coming up here in a little
By
bit.
the way, that was not a very enthusiastic applause.
No, not what you'd think it would be. No.
Right.
It was almost like, okay, thanks.
It was like, oh yeah,
Thanks for the shout out.
Okay, yeah. By the way, as we're clapping, we're remembering your history.
But I want to get to this because this is something that we talked about last week, because Mayorkis basically says what the plan is. Mm-hmm. You know, we were sitting last week going, oh, okay, well, what they're doing here is, this is pretty simple. What they're doing is they're opening up as many, they're coming up with legal pathways. You know, do an app, whatever you want to say, just say this to get in, whether it's fraudulent or not. Now, we know that roughly 85 to 90% of asylum requests in the United States are fraudulent. Mm-hmm. And so what the Biden administration has done is, knowing that 42 was going to end, they've been promoting for months the fact that you can do it on an app. By the way, 62,000 apparently have done it on the app so far, waiting to get in with the app alone. And then they've opened up more places. As we said, the 1,500 soldiers are going down to expedite more illegal immigrants becoming legal migrants and waiting years before they actually have to show up for their court date to find out whether their claim is fraudulent or not. It's exactly what they wanted to do. And so they were bragging over the weekend, oh, well, I mean, we only had 6,200, then 4,200. Well, 1,000 used to be a lot. But one of the reasons is, I believe, is because, okay, all we have to do is, we know we can get in. We know they've explained to us what we have to do to get in legally, and then we can figure out 2, 3, 4, 5, 12 years from now, you know, what we'll do when our court date comes up. But this gets us in, and this gets us in legally. So we had said that last week. We said this is their plan. Mayorkis said it yesterday. Here we go.
Because we have communicated very clearly a vitally important message to the individuals who are thinking of arriving at our southern border. There is a lawful, safe, and orderly way to arrive in the United States.
There you go.
Yep.
They've told them.
It's redirection. Here's how you do it.
Right.
Here's how you get in and get in quickly. And according to us, it will be lawful.
Right. Because we're not going to verify, so you can give any excuse you want. We can't. There's no way they can't vet anybody at the border.
The law is only as good as the enforcement behind it.
Right.
And that's exactly what they have chosen to do here in this administration.
Right. We said that last week. I was amazed how blunt he was stating that, because they're proud of it. They're like, okay, we have found the loophole. Yeah. We have just said, we'll let everybody into the country if you give us the right answer. Here's the right answer.
Right. Yeah, that's what that was Thursday night, right before we went on the air. The recording, the video from Mayorkis and the statement was redirection.
Yep.
Hey, here are your instructions to get in. And that's exactly how it's going to play out. We're not going to enforce the law. So here's what you do. Here's your part. And that's exactly where this administration has been from the beginning.
And he was saying it over and over again. Then he said later on, but President Biden has led the greatest expansion of lawful pathways ever.
Mm-hmm.
Through the regional processing centers that we're now building, but we have an obligation to deliver consequences at our border, not only to manage our border, but to cut the smugglers out. So what they said is, we're going to get you in.
Mm-hmm.
All you've got to do is say this.
Right.
All you have to do is go to the app. Here's what you say.
Right.
Here's how you get in.
And they want people to believe, by the way, the smugglers are not going to be involved in this. They're not going to take advantage of this. And that's false.
Especially when you're coming up through Central America.
Right. That's exactly how it's going down. This is precisely what they want. The smugglers want them here because they want them to do, they want whoever they're bringing here to do the work for them.
Right. Just because you want to come here doesn't mean you can afford to.
Right. So, yeah, this is this is the Biden plan.
So that's the plan all along. Well, we're going to have more order at the border. There'll be long lines, but there's not going to be riots because you notice it was the Democrats that were talking about the chaos, and as we brought up last week, the chaos and the police down there for the riots. Oh, they didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, see, we're successful.
Yeah, see, everything went quiet.
Right. No, we caught that last week. If you're listening to the show, we said, whoa. And then when the final message went, okay, here's what he's telling them. You can come in. You don't have to try to come in through the other checkpoints. Just come in here. Everybody's in.
Yep. Say these things. Do these things.
Right. Because everybody knows. All you have to do is go to the Border Patrol site and you find out, what the legit reasons are for asylum.
Right.
And you simply state that.
Right.
Now we know that 85 to 90% history shows has been fraudulent. That's not why they're coming. It doesn't matter. They're not going to be vetted.
Right.
They can't vet everybody. They're going to go back and check. Oh, okay, you're coming in from El Salvador? Well, we have no idea how to vet this. What is it? Oh, this is why you're coming in? All right. Well, then come back in 6 years. You're into the country. Come back in 6 years.
Yeah, your court date is January 35th, 2075. I know what you're saying. January only has 31 days. Not in 2075, it won't.
So, I mean, understand what's going on here as we explained to you last week. And it's just, what was amazing was, you could tell. I mean, Mayorkis was almost gleeful and promoting the fact, we've just said, okay, we'll let everybody in.
Yeah.
It doesn't, we'll let everybody in. Just here's the right answer. Here's what you say. Here's what you do. And you get in, no questions asked, except the initial question.
Right.
Which is, why are you claiming asylum? Oh, okay, that's the correct answer.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that we allow. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, that's the one we're promoting that we allow.
Right.
Just amazing.
Here are your instructions for getting in quickly.
Yep.
And staying here for a long time, if not forever.
And expect that you're going to have the state of Texas and other states, because this will start affecting other states too. They're going to double and triple down on sending the migrants, say, hey, New York City's a sanctuary. Think about this. This will even be bigger, and we'll get to Newsom backing off on reparations because that hit over the weekend. But you think, wait till Chicago or New York City say, we need to stop our sanctuary city designation.
Yeah, right.
Because we can't handle it anymore.
Or they'll say, we're going to hit the pause button while we come up with a new plan.
Right.
It's only temporary. You mean like the temporarily displaced travelers?
I mean, you saw, in New York, some of the counties around New York, don't you dare, now there's like this animosity back and forth that we can't handle the migrants. Don't send them here.
Right.
Because that's what Adams is planning on doing. Well, okay, then we're going to send you over here, then we're going to send you over here, then we're going to send you over here. And they're like, no, we can't handle it. We don't have the resources to do it. But the federal government, it's the same thing as energy. They don't care. They don't care what they do to the states. All right, solar, wind. That's what it's going to be. Let's get rid of natural gas. The states, like the state of Texas, coming out and saying, well, we can't run a grid this way. We saw what happened with Frizola. Mm-hmm. We cannot get capital investment into natural gas plants because the federal government is telling them they're going to go away. We're going to close you down. And so we need, as the state of Texas, a couple of weeks ago, the proposal is that the state of Texas builds public-private partnership, build like 10 natural gas, huge generation plants around the state that will only run 10% of the time, that needs to be subsidized because they only run 10% of the time. So your taxpayer dollars, state taxpayer dollars will subsidize it, and your electricity prices will go up. So we're subsidizing all across the board, all of our energy. And so the state of Texas, okay, this is a terrible thing, but that's the only thing we can do. Then the Biden administration comes out last week with their executive, proposals that we get rid of all natural gas plants.
Right. Yeah, no, this is the thing that everybody is focused on, this entire, we can run everything on wind and solar garbage, and nobody's looking at the actual situation that we're in, the reality. Because Texas, and right on the heels of Texas basically announcing that they're going to have their backup system is going to be natural gas, and it will require, because it won't be full-time, it will require subsidies on top of the subsidies for the wind and solar.
Right, because there's nothing the states can do about the federal government subsidies.
And what does Biden come in and do? Oh, no. Nobody will have natural gas plants.
Right.
If we have our way, no one will have natural gas plants. Natural gas will be banned. We told you this years ago, that they have to outlaw the use of something. The whole 2035 mandate on EVs. They're going, this is where you get to it and everyone's saying, well, no, this is a good thing for the planet, without thinking about it. Because, come on, 2035. That's like weeks away. We're not even thinking of it in reality when it's just around the corner, and inevitably what happens on the heels of things like that. Well, you're going to be taxed hard if you get a gas-powered vehicle. If you buy a used vehicle, we're going to have to drive it away because the market will shift. All right, fine, I'll buy a used vehicle, or I'll buy it from out of state. Okay, buy it from out of state. It's going to cost you an arm and a leg to drive it legally in our state. They have to outlaw the behavior. We've been saying this for a very, very long time, and we're here. They're saying it out loud proudly.
Yep.
I was watching the short documentary on Toyota because they're heading toward hydrogen. And they've got them right now. The testing, I think, is isolated to Japan. And they're not putting their investment in EVs. They're putting it in hydrogen. Well, fine. They'll just outlaw hydrogen for whatever reason. And
well, you still have to produce a hydrogen, which is
the EVs.
They don't have that solved.
They say they do. Now, I don't know if they do. They're saying they do. On board. That it's being produced on board. And it's being produced because, remember,
for how much?
I don't know. Okay. I don't know what the cost of the vehicle is. But this is the problem. It doesn't matter. EVs there will be a tax on EVs. And why is that? Oh, we forgot about the emissions related to the tires. We forgot about the emissions related to the mining of the materials.
Yeah, because of the weight of the cars.
Yes.
There's more rubber pollution now in the air.
Right. It's not over in 2035. If we did a conversion tomorrow.
Which is particulate matter, just
right.
so people know that.
If we did a conversion tomorrow, So all EVs, they would tax the daylights out of it, and you would start seeing the conversation to ban them eventually. This isn't over. It'll be over when you don't own a vehicle.
Over?
It'll be over when you have to get on a whatever it's going to be and shuttle with all of the other sheep to wherever you're going. I like saying sheep. I should say goats. Everybody else says sheep. I think goats. I'm going to go with goats. I like goats better.
I'm still on over?
Yeah.
Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor?
Yeah. No, it's never over. It's with the liberal left, it is never over. It'll be over when all of your freedoms are gone.
I'm not going to explain and see if I get an email.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, leave it.
I'm just
yeah.
going to leave it there.
We haven't done that before in a long
while,
time.
I know.
Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
Logging miles during the hot summer months can put a serious strain on you and your truck's health. Did you know pollutants and allergens in the air outside can enter your cab through the HVAC system without you even cracking a window? That's why it's important to check those cabin air filters. Inhaling dirty and polluted air can cause distress if you suffer from allergies or a respiratory illness. Not to mention the distraction dirty cabin air filters can cause by blocking proper airflow to your AC system when you need it most. Breathe easy when the air in your cab is fresh. This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, Gavin Newsom gets blasted for backtracking on reparations. Also, another California politician comes out and says, well, no. You were never going to get $1.2 million. I just absolutely love that what's going on right now. We'll talk about the fact that, the Feds say the federal student loan repayments to restart. I guess we will see on that. Rick Perry teases a possible presidential bid. The success of DeSantis being out and about there in Iowa, getting a ton of endorsements. A couple of articles written about the fact that one thing DeSantis is doing is he is local and state fundraising like crazy for Republicans, which is making him, when the primary's coming up, it's like, I'm going to be the one that gives back to the Republican Party because Trump doesn't do this. There were a couple of articles written about that saying he's trying to build support in the Republican Party by fundraising, by showing up and fundraising at state and local events. And just like Trump has big crowds, these crowds and the donations that are coming in some cases, are record amounts. So it's going to be interesting when he, and we'll talk about that too. Think about this, put on your political hat, because I really haven't done much of this because it was speculation for such a long time, and now it looks like he's in. But what should DeSantis do? If you're a political consultant, what would you tell him to do in order to win?
If I had his, everything, the difference is any of the inside numbers that he has, any of the inside polls that he has, telling him where the money's going to go, where the money's going right now, and is there an indication there? One of the things a few months ago, Trump went to New Hampshire and I think South Carolina all in one weekend to talk to donors, and there was never a response.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome to another week.
Yeah.
I will say it actually, I think about this this weekend. It was good. I mean, it was a mellow weekend. I actually watched a lot of golf because it was local. Mm-hmm. I wasn't there, but it was the Byron Nelson. So yeah. I don't know why, but I had golf on a lot. And we had rain. That's, with the other thing, too. We had on and off rain, and I had rain on and off most of Saturday and Sunday. You just weren't sure. Mm-hmm. They were saying, they were actually, I got less than I thought, because didn't they say like 2 inches we could have had on Sunday?
They thought that, that Sunday was going to be, I think, the total over the weekend, but Sunday was going to be most of it over 2 inches of rain. Earlier last week, I think toward the Thursday and Friday, the forecast was still heavy rain. I didn't get that much. We got some rain.
Yeah, we got some south where I live. I was able to do a bunch of lawn work and everything on Friday, but and Saturday it came a little bit later, but then it rained, in the afternoon a lot, and then throughout yesterday it also did. But so I was able to disconnect just a little bit because it's been like never ending. And then I see the Biden, commencement speech, and I heard about the Oprah commencement speech, and I'm telling you right now, they're just throwing out as pure fear and rage is right. What they're, trying to do. And we had talked about Biden at Howard University, and we played the audio cut to start the show, where he said, the biggest domestic terrorist threat is white supremacy. Well, that's a lie. That's a pathological lie. Another one coming from the president. You and I were amazed how lukewarm the response was.
Yeah, the applause wasn't what you would think.
To that, yeah. I mean, it's just, we've talked about Biden and the race baiter that he is, and we gave the perfect example. And every Democrat knows it. They know that Biden is trying. They know Biden tells lies about race in order to split people from one another. Hopefully, I'm not saying hopefully, and that's him. Hopefully, so they'll separate and hate each other because of their skin color. Mm-hmm. That's what he's attempting to do. And one of the perfect examples was Georgia, the Georgia election law.
Yeah,
where he said it was Jim Crow 2.0, Jim Crow on steroids, and there's nothing about that. The ACLU's using that in their fundraising ad now. Democrats are using it consistently now. We need to stop, the election rules that are coming up from Republicans that deny blacks their right to vote. It's a load of horse manure.
Well, and, they've gone from, okay, let's not just say racist. We've worn that out. We need to go to white supremacy, and that needs to be right. The talking points, and they've used it before, but now those are the talking points for 24.
And it's not just that it's a problem; it's the biggest terrorist threat that we have. Right? Exactly. Yes. So, that's the thing, and that shows the panic right now because Democrats for the last 40 years have always used race and race baiting as a crutch. Mm-hmm. It's not as successful as it used to be, but they still use it. Now, we have talked about identity politics with the Democrats. Every Democrat listening right now knows it's the Democratic Party that practices identity politics, and that is the fact that you judge people by the group that they're in or their skin color or their gender or their sexuality, and you put them in a group and they must think this way. And if they don't think this way, then they've betrayed the movement. Mm-hmm. Now, you can't get more racist than that. It is blunt with the Democratic Party. We have talked about that, Tim Ryan, for example, when he ran against Nancy Pelosi for Speaker a few years back, he said that's the biggest problem we have. We have to start treating people as individuals, not as groups. The Democratic Party right now, from what I can see, by observing what they're doing right now, they wish to destroy some of the major homes and cities that are majority minority, that are black. They wish to destroy them in every single way, and then at the same time call blacks who live there victims of the opposition party. It's amazing to watch. It really is amazing to watch as they continue to defund the police, as crime is out of control, as homelessness is out of control, as they legalize drugs. And as the one drug counselor, for example, in Portland, Oregon, said, I really believe some of these people on the city council want people to die. They actually want people to die of fentanyl poisoning on the street. They said, you cannot promote what they're doing and vote the way that they do and not understand what the consequences are, and they don't care what the consequences are. So as we see our cities crumbling, then you have the Democratic Party and the liberal black leadership keep promoting the same anti-human policies in the inner cities, and those for the most part, and in many of the areas, those human beings happen to have skin color that's darker.
Yeah.
And they don't care. Will destroy your civilization, will destroy your society, will destroy your neighborhood, will destroy your sense of security, and then we'll sit there and say, we're your saviors, even though we've caused the problem.
Yeah.
And the other side is the racist.
Create crisis and chaos in those communities and then falsely claim that there's a crisis or chaos somewhere else.
Yep.
That white supremacy is the greatest terrorist threat we have.
And I would sit there and say, I mean, there's an argument to be made that the president, with his associations in the past, with his racist language that he has used in the past, that this is a new form of racism. We destroy their societies, we destroy their neighborhoods, we blame it on the people that aren't responsible for it, and then we say, we're here to help you. Yet, as we know, when you go back and look at Biden's past and his association with known racists, and then you see the things that he says and does today, it's obvious this is the new racism of today. We'll pretend we'll be your savior. You're a victim. I'm your savior. Think about that. You can put that into other terms. I'm your savior. You're the victim. I destroyed your life, but I can help bring you back and give you a better life.
As I actually continue to destroy your life.
As I continue to destroy your life. That, I feel, is a new form of racism that exists today in the Democratic Party. And the identity politics is what makes it so upfront and so blunt.
Well, it was years ago. Who was it which organization, news organization, that said that San Francisco is becoming the whitest city because the cost of living in San Francisco is prohibitive to minorities. And one day it will just be nothing but a white city. And now they're talking reparations?
Well, as we said, the whole reparations movement in California, led by Democrats, we're so glad that Democrats have felt the guilt of their identity politics, of their stereotyping, of their bigotry and their racism, and they feel a little guilty about it. Nobody talks about that part of it.
Right.
Why do the Democrats want to do it? Because they feel guilty because they're the racists. They live by identity politics. Who lives that way? Who judges people? And remember, the modern identity politics movement started in the 90s going after conservative black talk show hosts. Understand, blacks were and are the biggest targets of identity politics. And now they are, just in a different way. Interesting, because I saw this, I happened to see this on Twitter. I don't know why it showed up on my Twitter feed, but it was Laverne Spicer who's running for the Florida 22nd District, and she says, I'm not a black Republican because it's popular. Trust me, it's not. I'm a black Republican because the Republican Party has policies that lead to black generational wealth. I need you to help me get to Congress in this swing seat known as Florida 22. I saved that when I bookmarked that because I said, well, that's it right there. And we've talked about it before. You want the success. I don't care who you are, but you want the success as an individual. It is about gaining wealth.
Yes.
Because when you gain wealth, then you're not under control of anybody. And the Democratic Party wants everybody under their control, including minorities.
Right.
And don't you ever not think that way, because it's obvious. And if you haven't figured it out by now, you need to observe better what's going on in our society.
Interesting that I've seen with a lot of like investment groups, individuals that form a group and talk about investments, certain YouTubers and others that are either vlogging or posting online, and even in the financial media, you're seeing a lot of talk about generational wealth. Well, that's something that the left hates. They don't want generational wealth. They want to tax that. You earn it. They want to tax it as you earn it, and they want to take half of what you leave for your family. They don't want generational wealth. That's a very conservative thing to think of. And the idea is that you're building something in order to create that kind of stability for your family for generations. That's the idea. And that's a very conservative approach. If you think about it, and we've talked about, as you mentioned, we've talked about expanding wealth for others. It doesn't mean everybody's going to be Elon Musk. It means you're going to be wealthier than you were. It means you're going to be more secure in your situation. It means that if we have another fallout and they decide to shut everything down again, that you're going to have maybe 6 months, maybe a year's worth of your income in savings.
And one thing that isn't brought up about the reparations and the amount that they were talking about and the message sent there, the message they were sending there is, you're black. You can't make it, and you never will be able to make it.
Right.
And so we need to take care of you for your entire life because you don't have the ability to make it.
Right.
That's the message sent with the amounts that they're talking about. You want to talk about a racist mindset. The racist mindset is alive and well. Institutionalized racism, systemic racism is alive in this country. It's a core. It's the core of the modern Democratic Party today.
Yep.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
Red Eye Radio, he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Here's a story. California Democrat State Senator Stephen Bradford is warning African Americans not to get their hopes up for massive reparations payments from the state. Bradford's message came after the California Reparations Task Force recommended over the weekend that the state pay $1.2 million in reparations to each black resident. That was actually last weekend they did that. The state lawmaker who served on the task force claimed that it's possible that black residents could receive some kind of cash payments if the money's there, but argued that receiving million-dollar checks in repayment for historical discrimination is not happening. Representative Barbara Lee, who attended the meeting, stated afterwards reparations are not only morally justifiable, but they have the potential to address long-standing racial disparities. But Bradford told potential recipients not to expect huge payments when the California government has not figured out where the money would come from. The state lawmaker from Los Angeles did say anything is possible if the money's there.
Right. That's a huge asterisk. The qualifier on that. If we had a gazillion dollars.
If we win the lottery.
Yeah.
But added, he will stay realistic. He will stay realistic. You're part of the panel that voted $1.2 million for reparations.
Well, I'll stay realistic. You just said if the money's there. You can't include that because you know it won't ever be there.
He told residents to have the same outlook, saying, I don't want to set folks' expectations and hopes up that they're going to be getting, seven-figure checks. That's exactly what you did.
That's exactly what you did.
Bradford's comments did rub some people the wrong way. Los Angeles resident and reparations activist Marcus Champion remarked, that is not the way you come to the table to pay a historic debt. That is not the way that you come to the table in any type of negotiation. Start as high as possible as you possibly can, and then work from there.
Uh-huh.
But, so some of the activists not happy at all about the backtracking.
Right.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Download our app today. Listen when and where you want. Reading this headline here. Gavin Newsom's reparations experiment backfires. What did he think was going to happen? You and I, throughout this entire thing, were just dying laughing because it's the continuation of the delusion from the Democrats that they keep selling.
Yeah, right.
In order to, they hope, get reelected. And we went, well, because when San Francisco came up with $5 million, by the way, is it still $5 million for San Francisco? I checked last week. I hadn't changed as of this moment, but
yeah, I haven't heard of any change. So yeah,
but when we saw the 230,000 and we compared it to the 5 million, we went, oh no, the state activists are going to want more, and then they went up to 360. There were numbers thrown out like 1.2 million, then 7.6 million, and then the mother of them all, reparations, the 200 million per recipient, which would have been $360 trillion.
Yeah.
And we just went, they've lost it. They've just completely lost it. And when Gavin Newsom has to be looking at this going, and this was the board I appointed. Remember, they were his appointees.
Yeah.
And we're like, he's being awfully quiet on this. And then when he comes out and says, well, it's more than just about money.
Yeah, listen. People need to stop focusing on money. How dare you just focus on the money? Oh, what he's saying is, yeah, you shouldn't focus on the money because really there isn't any. And that's what it comes down to, is that I could see them moving forward on something like, okay, we're going to have certain tax benefits for recipients. Maybe exemptions. I don't know. But the problem is, if they move on anything at all, they're doomed politically. Because the activists are already up to 200 million. They're screaming 200 million. And then if you do nothing, you're doomed. So the question is, do you do nothing and take the heat now and just try and close it out? Well, I don't think you can. Because you open the conversation, you've got to keep the conversation going. And if you don't keep the conversation going, then everybody that was part of it, or anyone who's heard about it, is going to make sure that that conversation is on the table. Because you must have been serious because you opened your mouth about it.
Just love it here. Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom is trying to dig himself out of a political predicament when it comes to slavery reparations proposed by his own task force. Fox News Digital was the first to report last Tuesday evening that Newsom, after months of complete silence on the issue, declined to endorse the cash payments, which could reach as high as $1.2 million for a single recipient recommended by his reparations task force, arguing that dealing with the legacy of slavery is about much more than just cash payments. said Assembly Republican leader James Gallagher, it will take absurd mental gymnastics to require California taxpayers, including new immigrants, low-income workers, and even some African Americans, to pay for a wrong committed by other states more than 150 years ago. But that's the position Newsom put himself in. No matter what he does, he's going to anger part of his base.
Yep, exactly what I just said. There's no way to go. There's nowhere to go for him. He's painted himself into a corner.
This is just one more example of the governor's tendency to make big promises he can't or won't keep, and people are going to learn quickly that Newsom is all talk but no action. I don't believe the Republican leader, though, is calling for action on reparations. I want to make that clear.
Yeah, no. I think he's basically saying what we're saying. You started this. There's no way you can't go on without finishing it. But the only way to finish this is to have the legislative body vote on it. You got to go through the motions. And if you stop talking about it altogether and say, look, it's not going to happen, if you basically throw that out there, oh, man. Now, here's the thing. We have to keep in mind it's California. Gavin Newsom will certainly get a political backlash if he says, we need to just move on. If he decides to ignore it from now on, there's going to be some backlash. But it's California. Most people will forgive him for it.
Following the task force submission of its final report this summer, I look forward to a continued partnership with the legislature to advance systemic changes that ensure an inclusive and equitable future for all the citizens of California, in a reiteration of the statement that was billed as a clarification by Newsom's office.
Yeah.
And some media outlets.
Listen, we're going to do some things, but it's not going to include any money. And if it's any money at all, it will be very little money compared to what the conversation has risen to lately.
Newsom stopped short of endorsing cash payments, saying he was waiting for the task force final report.
Oh, yeah, the final report. Yeah, okay. You'll be waiting for a while. Yeah, it was bound to happen this way. And I think they're just, internally, they're looking at, okay, politically, what can we survive? And, you know, the back and forth is going to be there, but politically, even if he said tomorrow, hey, no more talk about reparations, it's still California, and he's still Gavin Newsom. And that's what they're weighing right now. Exactly how much damage is there? Look, if Biden had come out and said, I've decided not to run again, and he was in, then what he would do is say, well, I'm going to take this fight to Washington.
Exactly. Yeah.
But he's not going to do that, or not yet. I suspect he will one day.
I'm going to take this to Washington because this reparations would bankrupt the state, and so instead I wish to go to Washington, become president of the United States, and then offer hundreds of millions in reparations to be paid for by our great grandchildren 500 years from now, when the country starts paying off some of the principal of the debt.
Yes. Right. As they continue to build the colony on Mars. Yeah, no, we'll just kick the can down the road, because that's where you can get away with it politically on the left. Listen, I'm asking Congress to do something and do something now. Blah, 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 blah. Congress is like, okay. Yeah, but we can't get the votes. You'll throw in a couple of votes, a couple of hardcore Democrats will go in. They'll vote, yes, yes. But they won't get the votes. And then President Newsom, well, we're trying. We're still trying. Yeah. Don't put any hope in it. It's not going to happen. It isn't going to happen. By the way, have we seen a poll of people who believe it's going to happen in California? Do you believe reparations is going to happen?
I'll check for a California poll, but I have not seen one.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing one.
They were using one in the story I was reading that showed that like 63% of Democrats and 86% of blacks favor reparations.
Right.
But know it was, and that was a couple of years ago. But it was left out? The amount.
Right. Yeah. It wasn't a specific amount. Right. Yeah.
And then ask Democrats if they, in California, for example, if they would like to add on to their tax bill $100,000 or whatever that would cost.
Yeah.
Was it $620,000 per household in San Francisco? By the way, I did figure it out. If Newsom did run for president, then advocated $1.2 million for blacks in the United States, 41 million times 41 million blacks in this country times 1.2 million, 49.2 trillion.
So cheaper than the Green New Deal.
It would be cheaper than the Green New Deal, but not as expensive as the $200 million reparations in California alone, which ran to $360 trillion.
Wow.
Oh, I swear
where did they think the conversation was going to go?
But they live in this delusion. Everything's a delusion. Everything can't be done. I mean, it's across the board, left and right. I mean, it doesn't stop. And that's why we even throw in the whole energy thing. They do the same thing. We can run the country on solar and wind. No, you can't.
No, you cannot.
It's impossible. Doesn't matter. We need to cut out everything else. And to hell with you if you don't have electricity is what they're basically telling the average person.
Right.
To heck with energy security. To heck with your economic security. And to heck with our national security. We wish to destroy the nation. There's no other way you can look at it when you look at what they're doing with energy. I know I just jumped to energy there from reparations, but it's the same thing. We're going to live in this delusional fairy tale world.
That these things can happen.
Yeah, and they can't. Just see where Hertz wants to go 25% electric vehicles.
Yeah,
by
man, I got a lot of questions there. Yeah, got a ton of questions there. What's that going to be like? Because here would be the question. If your company, any of the rental car companies, how many people ask for EVs? How many people that go to book a car ask for EVs?
Less than 1%?
Yeah, I'd love to know that percentage. Because if you're talking about your fleet then becoming 25% becoming EVs. Now the question is, all right, are you expecting that there will be a growth in demand, or are you saying that, well, some people that show up, because sometimes you show up and they just give you the vehicle, even a larger vehicle than you wanted, because that's all that's left. And if you've got 25% of your fleet is EVs, then that's going to happen quite often. And the question would be, all right, somebody steps up. They don't want an EV. They've never used an EV and have no idea how the whole thing works. That sounds like a logistical nightmare unless you're reserving all of that for what you anticipate to be the demand, which would be 25% or greater. I'd like to see those numbers.
I rent vehicles all the time, and most of the time I rent them for 1 or 2 days. And all you want, because you're busy, you're out of town, you're driving, last thing you want is to wait 40 minutes to fill up.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's the last thing you want.
They're at 10% now.
Is that of their fleet or the rentals?
They're saying vehicle fleet.
Okay. Because I have no idea where I would go. Because I know I saw that Avis is part of they're interested in this. They haven't announced anything like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I rent Avis Budget a lot because they're the same company.
Yeah.
I don't know where I would even find an electric when I'm in Western New York. I have no idea where it would be. I've never seen one anywhere near where my dad lives, and that's where I'm visiting, or near the airport.
Mm-hmm.
None. So you're talking in next year? They all have to be in L.A. or
or
San Francisco.
That's a good point. In that it depends on your destination point. If you're going to San Francisco or L.A., then maybe the demand is already there. I didn't see that, but it may be because in the story that I'm reading, but that may be because they just didn't report it. If you're a reporter, I would ask that question. All right, is that demand in certain cities? And I think that would have to be the case.
866-90 Red Eye.
Leased owner-operators should be aware of 4 common revenue myths, lest you fall into the trap of mistaking revenue for profit. Myth 1, concentrate on increasing revenue because costs will take care of themselves. This is not true, as costs are fundamental to the profit equation and the area where owners exert the most control to improve. Myth 2, more revenue per mile is the answer to all problems. Though carrier pay packages differ in structure, revenue per mile really doesn't change much from company to company, but there can be a big difference in miles, overall gross revenue, reimbursements, and fees. Myth 3, all you have to do to be successful is run a lot of miles. In reality, revenue is only half of the profit equation. Costs are the other half. It's possible to generate a lot of revenue, yet spend $1.10 to make every dollar. Myth 4, you can tell how well you're doing by the size of your settlement check. The settlement check is only a part of the success picture. Miles driven, loads hauled, conditions, mechanical problems, time off, and especially costs all have to be considered. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Shell Rotella. Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Let's go to Cameron in Colorado, who said exactly, Eric did some research right. We're just 5 seconds into the debate, and he told me what Cameron's going to tell us about Hertz and their electric vehicles right now. Go ahead. Hi, Cameron.
Hi, Gary. Yeah, I was just saying, I'm sitting right here in Denver, Colorado, inside a charging station. This is my second charge of the shift that I've been on working Uber, and it's just not practical. You're looking at about an hour to charge to 200 miles, and So I'm sitting here for 2 hours, and it's not free. You're having to pay about $20 per charge.
Now, but Hertz
$40.
But your point was Hertz supplies many Uber drivers with an electric vehicle.
That's correct.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what Eric told me.
Well, they have a certain rate for Uber drivers. And so it's I don't know, it's roughly $350 a week or whatever it is, and we're out of time, Cameron. But you point out something.
$420,
yeah. You point out that the time that it takes to recharge, you're just sitting there. You're not making money.
Yeah.
From studios deep within the United States of America, Red Eye Radio.
And I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley, 866-90-RED-EYE. Let's get to a couple of comments on reparations that we were talking about earlier. We go to Mike in Poughkeepsie, New York. Mike, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Hi, Mike.
Thanks, gentlemen. And for such difficult subjects, you guys intersperse just enough wit and levity to make it possible for us to learn from topics that would normally depress and disgust people. So you guys present things in a way that is so much more palatable to your listeners than most other shows. And I got to give you kudos for that and appreciation.
Well, thank you.
My point is,
thanks.
Governor Newsom backed off on speaking about reparations and said, this may be about more than money. But if you notice, right after he made that statement, a day or two later, he introduced a $300 billion budget with a surprise over $30 billion deficit. And perhaps he knew that deficit announcement was coming. And like that California congressman said, if we had the money, we'd do it. They may have known that deficit announcement was coming, but they weren't allowed to yet reveal it until the budget proposal became public knowledge.
Yeah. Interesting. And I wonder, Mike,
that's
too.
That's why he went silent.
Yeah. No, I think so. I think that's a good theory, and I also wonder too if this would be their next step. What they do is they say, "Listen, we've got this huge deficit now, and what it means is we're not raising enough money in taxes. So if we really want to do reparations, we need to get our house in order. We need to raise taxes even further. We need to blah 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 blah." And then they just kick the can on reparations down the road, but they tie it to part of the reason to raise taxes. I could see them doing that. That would be right out of their playbook.
You know, we did know, though, I mean, we knew, Newsom knew when he put the panel together this past January, I believe it was, he knew at that point that it was at least going to be a $22.5 billion deficit, and then it went up like $7 million to 30, and then they've added on another $2 billion. So they just added on a couple of billion more to it, but they knew it, and it wouldn't matter if they had a $28 billion surplus. When you're talking about anywhere between $630 and $1 trillion for reparations, because that's would have, and I'm going to guess it probably would have been closer to $1 trillion. Those numbers are so astronomical that you just can't do it. And I don't know. You make a great point. I mean, it does look, when you have a deficit like this after the surplus they had a year ago, and you realize that companies are moving, people are moving, you're losing your tax base. It does look pretty stupid to be basically the person who picked the majority of those on the reparations panel that are talking about something that is financially impossible to do.
Thanks, Mike.
What would the bond rating of California go to if they took out $1 trillion? And by the way, thank you. That's probably the nicest compliment that anybody could give us.
Well, because it really is our goal to have a conversation of where we just kind of break things down and have a real conversation with our audience and about how things work or where they're going, what the mindset is. And look, we do get passionate quite a bit. There are things that do make me angry. But I think the approach should always be to have that conversation and do it in a way where, look,
it's fun at times.
It's fun. But our founding fathers did not want this to be, and did not intend it ever to be, complicated. They think other people, mainly on the left, believe you're too stupid to have these conversations, but we don't think that.
No, I think most people are probably too busy or focused on something else. And so if you can make something, if you can turn into a radio show that's a lot of fun to listen to, and you say, well, it's a lot of fun and I learn a lot too, that's exactly what our goal, that's what our goal is.
It is.
That's actually what and so when somebody calls up and repeats almost word for word what our goal is, you say, okay.
That's quite the endorsement.
That's quite, it's like, okay, and we know it's working because we've done it for a long time. But when you hear it, from your listeners, that is,
it means a lot.
It means the world to us. I just want to let you know. I don't want to just let that compliment, pass by without us, without you understanding how much it does mean to us. But if they would have had a $30 billion surplus this year, it still would have made no difference. But could you imagine the bond rating California would get? $1 trillion in bonds.
Yeah,
or 600.
Right.
I'll go to the low. I'll even go to the low end. $620 billion because they'd have to take a bond out for it. Right. And as you and I said, I go, well, yeah, you're going to get anywhere between 360 and 1.2 million, but it will be in dollar increments, $1 every month.
Yeah.
And the bond issue will take out for the next 1,000 years.
Yeah. Right. And that's the only thing they can do really where they're at right now, I think, is kick the can down the road, try and promise that, listen, we want a better California for everybody and blah, blah, blah. And yes, reparations mean justice and blah, 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 blah. But in order to get there, we're going to have to, and I can see them introducing the thing with higher taxes again. But what will that effect be if they start talking that way as people and companies are leaving their state? You're just going to increase the number of people and companies that will be leaving the state. They're going to be leaving sooner. This is not hard. It's a very simple math when you do the equation and you see the exodus happening in these blue areas. People and companies are running to where they have more freedom. They can keep more of their money. They can expand, and they're not being punished over and over again.
I would have loved to have been in a Newsom staff meeting last week.
Yeah.
What the hell are we going to do about this?
Right. And you have to,
Governor, how did it get out of control? How did it ever get?
So, there's the thing is that if he runs for governor again, well, that's going to be on the debate stage.
Yeah.
You're the one that started the conversation, then you shut it down. Why? You don't really believe in fighting for it. That's where the left, that's what somebody on the left is going to say.
Yep.
You don't really believe in it because you're not willing to fight for it.
You should fight to bankrupt the state of California.
Like we said, it is the virtue signaling through the dollar amounts. Well,
Right.
we care more because we're promoting 200 million, not 1.2 million, not a couple 100,000.
Yeah.
We care more because we put a higher dollar amount.
How dare you just offer 360,000?
Exactly.
You uncaring racist.
Well, then I could see the next liberal say, well, these activists over here, they don't care about you. They only want 200 million. We want 200 billion. Why shouldn't everybody get what Elon Musk, every recipient, get what Elon Musk has.
Now, we did say there might be a problem because Eric was the first to promote $1 billion, but then we realized that if people got $1 billion, then Bernie Sanders would want to tax those people.
I still want
because
that
he doesn't want any billionaires.
I still want that. I would love for some activists to make some noise on, $1.5 billion, right, per recipient, because then you could, in an interview setting with Bernie, well, you've talked about how, you don't believe anyone needs more than $1 billion. Yes. Well, okay, then how many? All right, so if it's being promoted now that the recipients of reparations in California each receive $1.5 billion. Yes. Would you take $500 million of that away? Well, we would have some exemptions. Yeah, okay.
Well,
I mean, this is the conundrum. This is the circular firing squad that they have built over and over and over again on I don't know how many issues.
Let's go to Keith in New Mexico on reparations. Keith, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Hi, Keith.
Hi, how you guys doing? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I was wondering, had anybody thought if I would get $1.2 million in my bank account tomorrow, I'm probably going to quit my job. Has anybody thought about the teachers and the cops and the truck drivers and that would just not show up for work the next day? What that would do to the economy? We remember what happened and still is happening after the COVID when people wouldn't show up for work or couldn't or didn't or whatever. The service industry was devastated. I mean, what would they do? What would California do if all of a sudden everybody got every person of color got $1.2 billion? I wouldn't blame them. Most people feel like they're overworked and underpaid.
Well, I would think that California, the Democrats would view that as a success because not only are you paying reparations, but you're destroying the economy and capitalism at the same time. So, I don't think they care about the.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, I don't think they care about the consequences. You can't.
When
you propose things like this, the consequences.
Well, and if they did this, Keith, many of those people the recipients would leave California because of the high taxes. Because think about this.
Another thing I was thinking.
Now we joked and said, well, no, maybe they'll create a situation that you can't leave California. If you leave California, you're no longer eligible. But then that would be deemed racist, right? You're trying to restrict the movement of individuals and their freedom if they want to move somewhere, and the state says we're going to take away your benefits if you move. How dare you?
Right now, and just so you know, Keith, Eric and I did invite if this reparations did come about and they became instant millionaires, that we invited all of them to Texas to spend it.
Yeah,
and Florida to go on vacation.
It will go much further. Yeah, it will. You will have.
But you don't want
so much more spending.
But you don't want to go to Disney because it's really expensive.
Yeah, I wouldn't go there.
Oh, wait a minute. I need to shut up.
Yeah.
Go to Disney. Sorry. I still have a partial pension coming from Disney when Disney owned.
No,
when we worked for we actually worked for Disney, both of us did.
I converted mine and put it in an investment. So don't go to Disney.
No, go to Disney. I'm still getting the payments.
Nah, don't go to Disney.
I was laughing over the week. I was telling that to somebody. I said, well, much my opinion, it depends whether I benefit monetarily out of it.
I think we've been very vocal about Disney, one way or the other.
Well, look, we're the ones that criticized. We were the ones that, and we showed no hesitancy whatsoever to criticize the Republicans when they cut taxes
and increased ours.
That
jerks.
We thought that part of the plan was a bad plan.
You're going to do your taxes on a postcard. I still can't do my taxes on a postcard. Thanks a lot, Ted Cruz. Taxes on a postcard. By the way, How many people still know what a postcard even is?
Wait, weren't the Democrats going to make the post office the bank or something like the National Bank? Remember that? Remember that was being thrown out.
I think that plan's probably still in the works.
You can bank, vote, and do your taxes on a postcard.
Well, wait a minute. If the post office is getting close to insolvency, the last thing you want to do is make them a bank. That's a horrible idea.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara, 866-90 Red Eye. Coming up following the top of the hour, you saw the legal defense fund for Daniel Penny, now $1.3 million. I'm sure it's more than that. That was over the weekend they had raised that, being charged with manslaughter in the killing of Jordan Neely. Interesting here because I think you and I normally don't comment until we get an idea of certain information out there. I will say this. The problem, number one, with this is nobody trusts Bragg.
Right.
Nobody trusts Bragg to do the right thing. We know that Bragg is not about being a prosecutor who actually prosecutes crimes. Everything he does is for a political message. So we'll get to that and more coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley. Hope everyone had a great birthing person's day yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my. Did you see that more than half of Americans say motherhood is the most important role for a woman to fill in today's world? And that's up significantly from just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, the other half are men.
More than half of Americans say motherhood is the most important role for a woman to fill in today's world. A Rasmussen Reports poll found.
Yeah.
The survey, I thought it was, serving men, but...
Hey, ladies, he's single.
To serve man. It's a cookbook. It's a cookbook. The survey conducted with over 1,000 American adults in early May found that 56% believe motherhood is the most important role for women, for women, which is up from 52% in 2018.
Yeah.
30% disagree with that statement. 14%, I don't know.
I'm not touching it. I'm not going to answer it because she's standing right here. Yeah. Yeah, it was we actually celebrated on Saturday and went to one of my daughter's homes and had a great time. Had the whole family there. And my two oldest are both moms, and they are Such incredible moms. Just looking around, it was a different perspective. Instead of having Mother's Day get together at our place, it was at one of my daughter's home, and it was so great being there, but just watching, because they just purchased this home and moved in not too long ago, and so her two children were showing me their rooms that were set up. Last time we were there, it was moving day, and just spending that time and with my grandkids and watching my daughters as mothers, and of course my wife, who has done most of the heavy lifting in our well over 3 decades together. And when you see it just right there in front of you, it's just, I was awestruck. I really was. It was a great day, but I'm so proud of my daughters, so proud of my wife. And my mom's so funny. She's like, you don't have to send me flowers. And then when they get there, they're so beautiful. And she loves them. My dad tells me. And so it was a good weekend.
Of course, an LGBTQ activist spouted far-left talking points in celebration of Mother's Day on Sunday by sharing memes and videos about how fathers can be mothers too. In one shared, a man who identifies as a woman said America should have a Parents' Day. There's 2 different days of the year that I question. There's Mother's Day and Father's Day. As a trans person and as a trans woman, which one do I celebrate? I don't feel like a father. Mother's Day is tomorrow. I feel like a mom, but who celebrates me? Well, you can't be a mom.
Yeah. You're not going to give birth.
Right.
And who's going to celebrate me?
Well, it's the other thing that comes from the left, too, that basically mom and dads are interchangeable.
Right.
And that's not true.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
It isn't true.
No, it isn't. And over and over again, the left has shown, well, but we have to create victims. So instead of celebrating all the moms, this person here wants to
be a victim.
Wow. Wow.
Well, everything's about being a victim.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for the left right now, I mean,
nobody's celebrating me. Welcome to the club.
I don't get celebrated.
Yeah.
When was the last time nobody celebrates me? What about we talk show hosts? Nobody ever says good things about us.
What about single people with no kids? When is their celebration?
Oh, I'm going to get Bob on that one, Independent Bob. They'll get him started on.
Yeah.
So I believe you should pay more in school taxes, Bob, since you don't have children.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. What about all the couples out there that have no children? Who's going to celebrate them? They're celebrating because they can get up and leave and go where they want, and they've got a lot of independence.
We don't got those little whippersnappers all over the place.
Yeah. But that's, that is so the wrong mindset. Who's going to celebrate me? Nobody. Any more questions?
You were looking at me as you said that.
Nobody's going to celebrate you. Any more questions? But this is the idea of, again, looking for another reason to be a victim. I don't have a day. So what?
Well, you just informed me of all of this. I've never really thought about the fact that I don't have a day.
You don't.
I've gone through this entire life. I've worked hard my whole life, and I don't have a day.
There's no Hallmark card for me.
Where's my Hallmark card? I don't see any Hallmark movie representing me. I want to make this clear. That made it sound like I watch all the Hallmark movies and I would know.
Yeah.
Maybe they have.
You only watch about half of them.
Exactly.
Well, Brian Regan has a great bit about all the different types of greeting cards and the ones that are blank inside. Who do you send these to? Hey, sorry you're feeling so blank inside. Then somebody asked the guy, hey, what do you do for a living? I create these cards. There's nothing inside. I don't have to write anything. Just a picture on the front. I'm selling a crease. Getting rich off of it. It's, I don't know. How about you just celebrate being alive? How about you celebrate yourself? Yeah, you go do that.
Okay. Thanks for... Eric's giving me all this advice this morning.
Yeah.
I should be happy.
Go celebrate yourself.
I should be happy for things like, it's like when people say, my nephew will say it, so Uncle Gary, how is it to be old? You can't play basketball. And shut up. Don't be asking that. No. Actually, it's better than the alternative.
Yeah. Well, I actually love it. I love getting older. Because you get to the point and you realize everybody's calling you, sir. The guy that must have been in his mid-40s the other day. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, sure. And holding the door for me. It's like, look, I can open. You know what? No. Looking at it the wrong way. Thank you, young man.
No,
yes, sir.
I actually like this age better than any age I've been.
Yeah.
And it's simply because you've organized your mind better. You don't make the same mistakes because you have experience, which means you've had many failures, so you know what not to do, and you learn not to worry about the small stuff as much.
Well, that's it. I can walk into Home Depot or Lowe's, and they don't ask me anymore, can I help you find something? They know that I know where everything is.
Right.
They can just look at me by my age. Well, you didn't ask him if he needed help. He doesn't need help. Look at him.
Could you get out of my way?
Yeah.
You're in my way.
Yeah, you can stop asking me questions. I need help with that.
I would rather be this age than any other age.
Yeah.
Now my dad will debate that. My dad at 97 will say, well, I'm glad I'm here, but you can say that now at your age, but when you get to my age, there's a few more limitations that don't make life exactly a joy. And he says it with a laugh, by the way. He says got a great sense of humor when he when he says that. And it's just because, he has stenosis of the back and that it hurts.
Yeah.
That's something that's constant, pain for him they can't relieve, Well, they could. He doesn't want to take the drugs that would relieve it.
Right. Yeah.
I understand completely. So, but no, for me, I would rather be, and I mean professionally, personally, across the board, I'd rather be this age than any other age. That takes some younger people especially like, really? Oh, yeah. I tell them, wisdom, which is basically learning from all your mistakes. That's what it is.
For instance, Hot Shot, you're about to go jump off that cliff without looking. I've already been there, done that.
Yeah.
I know not to do that.
I look.
Yeah. You don't know yet. You're going to learn the hard way.
Right. Exactly.
Good luck.
You should have seen me at 14, 15 years old on those cliffs.
Are you kidding me?
Like, no fear of, and you figure that as human beings, you would have a bigger fear of death when you're younger and say, I got a whole life I could live.
Yeah, I'm doing the math here.
I've got decades upon decades I could live if I just don't act stupid here.
Right.
But it's like, no. Then when you get older, it's like, I got less time, but it's a lot more valuable.
Exactly.
So I don't go peering over that cliff.
Yeah.
But, I was, like I said, then again, that's the other thing, too. With the stupid things I've done in my life, most of them seeking adventure, climbing cliffs, doing stupid things, race cars, things like that, crashes there and, just dumb things where it's like, I still have never, except for my tonsils, I've never been in a hospital overnight.
Yeah.
Knock on.
Well, wait for it.
Yeah.
It all comes at once.
But many times, my brother and I will say it all the time. can you believe we're alive? It's like every day is a bonus, isn't it? What do you mean? Like for the last 50 years, it's been a bonus.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, 866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. 866-90 Red Eye. Yeah, looking at the Daniel Perry situation in New York City, raised $1.3 million for his legal defense fund after being charged in the killing of Jordan Neely. The problem look, we've said this up front. A lot of people who jump immediately on board something. We wait till we get at least a semblance of facts out there. But when you look at this case, Bragg, there's automatic suspicion that he's going to be political in anything that he does. Why? Because that's what he has done. He's shown that he doesn't care about the law. He cares about a political narrative. So right at that point, you're going to have people look at anything he does and say it's a mistake.
Yeah.
No matter what. Number two, you have more witnesses coming forward now and talking to the media saying, no, he was justified in doing it.
Yeah.
What you do in this type of situation, if you are a legit district attorney, is you say, we're going to gather the facts, and you put it to a grand jury. That's what you do. You have the people decide whether the prosecution should be done. You at least, you go that grand jury route. Now, again, I don't know what happened. It cannot, you can look at this and say, what would be the possible charges, not knowing exactly what the witnesses will testify under oath. Okay? You don't know.
Right.
Probably would be negligent homicide, even would be tough to reach manslaughter. Now, if, again, it's either self-defense, right?
Yeah.
It's either self-defense, the possibility, self-defense, negligent homicide, maybe you could get to a low-level manslaughter charge.
Yeah.
And again, I'm stating these are the possible charges, not knowing anything from the witnesses, but as we know now, I know the one woman came out and said, no, he was totally justified in what he did. And so you understand why this is happening, in this, in this case, because she said, no, he was threatening our lives.
Well, and there was, more information. That's what a lot of the information has come out from witnesses really surrounds that. How much of a threat was the guy?
Right. That's right. Because that's how it's judged. What is your intent?
Right.
And, and so in self-defense, if these people, we felt terrorized, we felt threatened. Now, again, it's what you're willing to say under oath.
Yeah.
At that point that gets you there, but this should have gone to a grand jury because nobody trusts Bragg. No one.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. And the fact is, I think he's happy with that. Bragg wants people to know that he's political.
Yeah. No, I think
he wants people to know, I'm going to come after you if you do something that I don't like, even if it's not against the law. We're going to come after you. And those people that break the law, if they fit my particular political narrative, we're going to let them go. And that's of his own doing. But this should have gone, a case like this, you put it to a grand jury.
Yeah. Yeah, it will be interesting to go.
And that's if you believe you're a prosecutor, you have a case. Or if you just, because it's so highly political, you just say, all right, we'll put the witnesses in front of a grand jury. And in New York, as we all know, the grand jury can, can interview any witness that they wish to put in. And I'm assuming in this case, you would get all the witnesses into that grand jury.
Right.
which is what you would want to do. But
And, with self-defense, it is about, all right, what did you feel in that moment? Did Penny believe that Neely was going to take his life or hurt him or someone else at that point? And I think it's obvious with the witness testimony so far, just what we've seen, that Neely was a threat. Now the question is, all right, but you use this chokehold to do what? Well, in self-defense, his lawyers are going to say all he wanted to do is make sure that Neely was not going to hurt anyone else or hurt anyone at that point. And so the chokehold was to keep him down and restrain him. The intent was not to take his life. Well, then the problem is, all right, so what charge do you go for? Well, if it's a charge of murder, then, all right, you're saying then his intent was to take his life. And or he didn't care whether or not if Neely lived. And the burden of proof there is substantial, and I don't know what you're going to get based on, again, what the jury will see, what they allow for, all the pictures and videos that have come out of it. I don't know what the court will allow the jury to see, but it will be interesting to see what the defense is, how the defense is going to posture. I mean, it's going to be self-defense. That's going to be what they're going to claim. But you've got to get into the details of spelling that out, and it really gets into those final moments. Those moments of when Neely was still alive to the point that he's not, and what caused that, and what was the intent, how much recklessness was involved. All of that is going to be part of it.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Hurley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Listen when and where you want if you can't listen live overnight.
Yeah, thank you.
So I just love this, Jonathan Turley. This week, Representative Byron Donald tried to do the impossible after he and his colleagues presented a labyrinth of LLC shell companies and accounts used to funnel as much as $10 million to Biden family members. Donald's tried to induce the press to show some interest in the massive corruption scandal. For those in the press, this is easy pickings and Pulitzer-level stuff here, right here, he pleaded. The response was virtually immediate, despite showing 9 Biden family members allegedly receiving funds from corrupt figures in Romania, China, and other countries. The New Republic quickly ran a story headline, Republicans finally admit they have no incriminating evidence on Joe Biden. For many of us, it was otherworldly. A decade ago, when then Vice President Joe Biden was denouncing corruption in Romania and Ukraine and promising action by the United States, massive payments were flowing to his son Hunter Biden and a variety of family members, including the Biden grandchildren. Last year, I wrote a column about how the media were preparing a difficult scandal implosion to protect the Bidens and themselves from the backlash from disclosures of this influence peddling operation. The brilliance of the Biden team was that it invested the media in the scandal at the outset by burying the laptop story as Russian disinformation before the election. That was, of course, false, but it took 2 years for most major media outlets to admit that the laptop was authentic. But the media then ignored what was on the authentic laptop.
Well, yeah.
Hundreds of emails detailed potentially criminal conduct and raw influence peddling in foreign countries. When media outlets such as the New York Post confirmed the emails, the media then insisted that there was no corroboration of the influence peddling payments and no clear proof of criminal conduct. It entirely ignored the obvious corruption itself. Now that the House has released corroboration of actual money transfers linking many in the Biden family, the media is insisting that there is no scandal because there has been no proof brought forward yet of direct payments to Joe Biden. Putting aside that this is only the fourth month of the investigation, the media's demand of a direct payment to President Biden is laughably absurd. The payments were going to his family, but he was the object of the influence peddling. The House has shown millions of dollars going to at least 9 Bidens like dividends from a family business. As a longtime critic of influence peddling among both Republicans and Democrats, I have never seen the equal of the Bidens. You and I said this.
Yeah, right.
We don't know of an influence peddling scheme in history as large as this one. The whole purpose of influence peddling is to use family members as shields for corrupt officials. Instead of making a direct payment to the politician, which could be seen as a bribe, you give the millions to his or her spouse or children. Moreover, those emails include references to Joe Biden getting a 10% cut of one Chinese deal. It also shows Biden associates warning not to use Joe Biden's name, but to employ code names like the big guy. At the same time, the president and the first lady are referenced as benefiting from offices and receiving payments from Hunter. Indeed, Hunter complains that his father is taking half of everything he is raking in. None of that matters. New York Times ran a piece headline, House Republicans report finds no evidence of wrongdoing by President Biden. That is putting aside evidence against all family members around Joe Biden. It ignored that the other evidence clearly shows Biden lied about his family not receiving Chinese funds or that he never had any knowledge of his son's business dealings. The fact is that the Times may have indeed be trying for another Pulitzer Prize. The newspaper previously won a Pulitzer for the now debunked Russia collusion story.
Yeah.
It was, think about this.
Wow.
They won a Pulitzer Prize for telling you disinformation.
Yes.
It was later revealed that the story was based on a dossier funded by the Clinton campaign and placed in the media by Clinton officials. Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Bob Woodward warned the co-winner, the Washington Post, that the story was unreliable, but it was ignored. The Pulitzer Committee refused to withdraw the award. Is that the first time in history that a Pulitzer Prize has been awarded to a media outlet for getting a story wrong?
That has been clearly disproven.
Disproven, yes.
Wow. I would have to look that up. I would think it's extremely rare, if not the only time. Wow.
And this is great, though. What Donald's failed to appreciate, maybe not, is that that this is sometimes how Pulitzers are made. Roughly 100 years ago, the New York Times reporter Walter Duranty won the Pulitzer for his coverage of the Soviet Union despite serving as an apologist for Joe Stalin. Duranty refused to report on actual conditions from mass killing to starvation in the, quote, workers' paradise. Thus, when the Soviets were starving to death, as many as 10 million Ukrainians, the Times ran a Duranty story with the headline, Russians hungry but not starving. He not only spinned Stalin's labor camp that killed millions, but attacked reporters who sought to uncover the truth. Years later, Ukraine and various groups demanded that Duranty's prize be rescinded, but the committee insisted that there was no clear and convincing evidence of deliberate deception. But you got the story wrong.
Wow.
What is most impressive about this week is that all but a few outlets seem to be angling for the next Durante Pulitzer. In discussing modern Russian propaganda, researchers at Rand Corporation describe it as having two distinctive features: high numbers of channels and messages, and a shameless willingness to disseminate partial truths and outright fictions, which you get on the biggest scandals that we deal with today from where? The mainstream media. The Democratic-supported mainstream media that claims that they wish to get rid of disinformation, yet they promote it greater than any other media entity out there. Today, we're seeing a much more dangerous phenomenon. The coverage this week has all the markings of a state media: the constant spin, the almost universal lack of details, the absurd distinctions. It is the blind side of our First Amendment, which addresses the classic use of state authority to coerce and control the media. It does not address a circumstance in which most of the media will maintain an official line out of by consent rather than by coercion. This is where you and I talked about, and we said this years ago. I think this was with Lois Lerner. I think we said this in the whole IRS thing.
Yeah.
And we said, is it a conspiracy or is it culture?
Well,
because culture is worse than a conspiracy.
Right.
Because culture doesn't need an agreement. It's just a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Everybody knows you don't tell the truth.
If they think and act the same way naturally, it's much greater and much more effective than any conspiracy.
Now, we like Mr. Donalds here on this show. We believe he's a growing force in the conservative movement and has a great political future ahead of him. But he needs to understand. Now, he's a couple of decades younger than us, but he needs to understand, don't wish for the media anymore to become journalists.
Yeah.
That's like asking football players to become golfers.
Tony Romo notwithstanding.
I could have picked another analogy. I thought of that too. I go, okay, I got to pick another analogy.
There are a few football players that are pretty good at golf.
They're not journalists.
Right.
Mr. Donalds, understand they don't wish to be journalists.
No.
They're not hurt by the fact that you're attempting to shame them that, look, this is Pulitzer-winning prize stuff out here. Take this and run with it, and you'll get the Pulitzer Prize. They don't care.
Nope.
They're not trying to be journalists.
Nope.
And we tell all Republicans and conservatives, stop wishing that they become journalists. They have no interest in becoming journalists.
No.
None. They're political activists. They are not shamed when you consistently show that they're lying. They move on to the next lie to promote the next lie.
Yeah, if you don't care about lying, you don't really care, obviously, about the truth or who learns the truth along the way. So they don't feel shame when they're proven to be a liar. They just move on to the next lie. That's the game. Because is anything changing? Is there a threat of them losing what they have as a result of being found out? No. No, they're celebrated. The only threat is if they win a Pulitzer. That's it's a chance at greatness as far as they're concerned. And I could win a Pulitzer for this lie.
That's why they all laughed when the president told the truth.
Right. Yeah.
Because they know they're not journalists.
At the correspondence dinner, right?
At the correspondence dinner, right.
Yeah.
They know that they are tools. They are stooges of the administration.
Yep.
That's why, as we told you, they're getting upset that Biden isn't holding press conferences because they're waiting for their talking points from the White House, and they're not getting them. And they feel helpless. They're not journalists digging for a story. They're political activists waiting to be led with the proper propaganda from the Democrat leadership.
Yep.
Once you understand what they believe their role is, then you no longer beg them or ask them to become journalists anymore because they can't.
Yeah, you understand what the end game is because their intent is always to move the needle. And they can only do that with lies.
Yep. 866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Where will talks on the debt ceiling go? We'll get to that coming up here in just a little bit. More on the Biden family and where that investigation is going to go. You saw Brittany Griner. The national anthem has hit her differently this time. Apparently sitting in a jail cell in Russia. It's made her reevaluate the national anthem of the United States.
Huh. Interesting.
Here's the thing. When you tell young people over and over again that this is the worst place on the planet to live, and then they go someplace else and sit in a jail cell without due process, that might tend to change the way they think.
I think there's something to that. Yeah. I would subscribe to that theory of yours.
Well, I do appreciate that.
Just, because it really was promoted as, well, this is wrong. We shouldn't be doing this before games and everything else. And it's just propaganda. And it's, oh, well, if you want to learn about propaganda, go sit in a Russian jail for months and months and months and months. See how that works out. Yeah.
I'm waiting. Two things I'm waiting for. It's going to come this summer. The one is, where is Kaepernick?
Yeah.
In the NFL. And the other one's going to be the call again. You get some liberal sports writer again, the call to stop the national anthem before NFL games.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen.
And the military stuff, too.
Yeah.
There's no reason to promote the military industrial concept.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Not concept.
Complex.
Complex.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Looky at this.
What? What do you got?
There's a headline. AOC's former aide, now leader of the New York Communist Party. A former aide to AOC is now a senior official within the New York State Communist Party. Records show that by the New York Post show that 33-year-old Justine Medina worked for AOC's campaign for much of 2020. After working for the Congresswoman, Medina was named co-chair of the New York Communist League by the People's World, a publication of the Communist Party. The publication now lists Medina as serving as on the executive committee of the New York State Communist Party, who was also active in the Amazon Labor Union. As an aide to AOC, Medina says she was responsible for organizing and writing policy language with anti-war veterans and the peace movement. Her years-old tweets highlighted by the Post show her proclaiming her alignment with communism. Well, I am a communist, but work for AOC and help start the Queen's DSA electoral WG, so I definitely see utility in working on the AOC campaign. She tweeted in October of 2020. I don't know what that all means, but there you go. Not surprising at all.
Yeah.
As we told you, the Green New Deal is basically communism.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's not a surprise. We just don't throw out this rhetoric. We just don't throw stuff out. It has to be based on something if we're going to throw something out. And you see that the commies are getting closer to AOC.
Yeah.
They're working for AOC. She's proposing commie stuff. I just like saying commie.
Yeah. It's no shocker, no surprise. Is it any indication that she's not communist enough? Sorry, I got to move on. I got to work for the party. You're not communist enough.
You're a commie, but you're not a pinko.
You're just not quite there yet.
You got to have the pinko in there, too.
Yeah. Would you just,
Or commie pinko.
Maybe one day, but not yet. Yeah. Wow. That's how bad it is. Now, we warned AOC and others at some point, you won't be far left enough. And I think we clearly reached the point. Look, if your own staffers are leaving you for the Communist Party, then I think it's clear you've got some work to do. Yeah. Yeah, it was inevitable that we would get to this point of, the insanity. By the way, she had also said, this goes back a couple of weeks, she's not going to be running for Senate.
Yeah, I saw that.
I really think, I think she doesn't like the gig. We talked about this, and she, at one point, man, this goes back over a year, longer, and she talked about how crazy the process is in the House.
And I don't think she likes it with Republicans in charge.
Yeah, she certainly, I'm sure, doesn't like it with. That was back when the Democrats were in charge. She didn't like it. I guarantee you, she hates it now. But I think she believes she can be a greater influence elsewhere. And I wouldn't be surprised to see her do something else. She likes the celebrity part of it. She likes the notoriety.
Yeah.
But you fade into the background, certainly when the opposition party is in charge in the House, you fade into the background more and more. And then what do you do? How do you get noticed? If you're someone like her, you keep screaming Green New Deal.
Yeah, you keep being as radical as possible and hope that MSNBC comes for you.
Yeah, I mean that would be it.
I mean, look, when you got when you look at and we go back to the what's her name lawsuit. Oh, I can't think of it. Not Joy Reid.
Rachel Maddow.
The Rachel Maddow lawsuit. When you really think about it, because she was looking at the entire Dominion lawsuit and all that. Mm-hmm. But we had talked when the Dominion lawsuit came and said, think about this, that when Rachel Maddow was sued for defamation, the judge actually said there can be no defamation because, and I'm paraphrasing here, but I believe this is completely, I don't think I'm exaggerating any of this, but basically Rachel Maddow, everyone knows she lies.
Mm-hmm.
She knows she lies. the audience knows she's lies. She knows the audience knows that she's lying. Therefore, if everybody knows that it's a lie, and that's what your shtick is, your shtick isn't, I'm telling the truth, but it's obvious to everybody that it's a lie, then how can you defame someone?
Right.
And I said, basically, the judge gave her the parody out.
Yeah.
You know, you're doing parody, so of course everything you say is inaccurate. But he didn't say she was doing parody, the judge, or I don't know if it was a he or she judge, but the judge didn't say this is parody and under the parody exemption.
No.
He just basically made the case and look, everybody knows she's lying about everything all the time. And so there is no expectation that you're ever going to get truth.
Right.
Truth would be an interesting expectation if you got that. That would be a little, whoa, that might change it, but nobody expects it. So why not put AOC in there?
Right. Yeah, why not? Yep, it is. I honestly believe that's where she wants to end up, because she believes, well, I can bring about more change through that kind of influence. But
she got $1 million paycheck instead of the 170 something and living in Washington and you know, drinking wine and setting up furniture in her place at night.
yeah, exactly.
Does she still do those little things anymore? Those
I don't
I
know.
haven't seen one in a while.
I don't know. I would guess so. I would guess she's not giving that up. Wants to be the influencer.
She may not be running for Senate, but Rick Perry teased, you know, that he might run for president. Former Energy Secretary and Texas Governor Rick Perry on Sunday teased a possible 2024 presidential run while declining to support Donald Trump's campaign, becoming the latest one-time Trump appointee to distance himself from the former president's third White House bid. Perry, who unsuccessfully sought the 2012 and 2016 GOP presidential nomination, told CNN's Jim Acosta in an interview, wow, everybody's doing interviews with CNN now, huh?
I guess so.
That he hasn't written off the idea of running for president in 2024, saying there was a lot of time before a decision would need to be made. When asked if he believes Trump should be the Republican nominee next year, the former Texas governor said, I'm still trying to sort that out for myself. He may get to hear me call him names again, Perry added, alluding to the previous clashes between the two men in the 2016 Republican primaries. If you recall, I didn't announce for president in 2011 until August, so we've got a lot of time left. When asked specifically if he was considering another run for the president, he said, it's early in the process, I think, for any of us to sit back and say, I'm for this person or for that person. It certainly is something that I haven't taken off the table, but the chances of it happening are probably a little bit slim. I don't believe he'll be running.
I don't think he'll be running. Yeah. If you see DeSantis get in, which could happen any day now, then I think it's going to be, the decision is going to be down to those two.
You know, the Perry
Trump and DeSantis.
Perry is the longest-serving Texas governor. Was. I mean, still is. Longest-serving Texas governor.
Yeah.
In history.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I mean, and there are a number of great governors who then went on to run and, you know, for president and didn't really go very far. I think the difference in this case where DeSantis has the advantage in that case is what he has done in Florida. A number of success stories from Governor Perry in Texas. But DeSantis has really been in the national spotlight. And I think in terms of the party and what he's done for his party in his state, then that gives you at least the advantage for now. I don't know how much longer that advantage would hold if that doesn't continue to be the case.
Well, I'm looking here at a couple of articles, both National Review. DeSantis enjoys huge haul of Iowa endorsements ahead of visit. DeSantis builds the party while Trump drains it. And these are two stories, and there's a lot of other stories out there that I read over the weekend, too. There's talking about that what DeSantis is planning on doing, and he still plans on what the scuttlebutt is. He still plans on running that, I get things done without any drama. That's one thing, that he wants to promote. I don't know how you campaign actively for that.
Yeah, that's, obviously he wants to get straight, do what he's known for, getting straight to the point on things and not being reliant on social media to carry things.
And so it'll be interesting to see how he phrases responses when Trump attacks him.
Yeah.
The Trump's. What do you think about Trump still using the sanctimonious? It's just.
Yeah, it didn't really take off to begin with.
Yeah, it never took off. In fact, DeSantis laughed at it. I'm not sure what it means, but that's fine if he wishes to name call. That's not what we're about. We get the job done, and that's being promoted by other Republicans right now. But the part that they're saying is DeSantis wants to be the leader of a much more united Republican Party. So he's going out, and it listed all the places. He's going to small places and doing fundraising for local and state officials. He's going to be all over the country doing it, and they're responding. It's record donations when he comes into town.
Right.
And record attendance at these campaign fundraisers from what they traditionally were. And they say his whole point is, we're a party together. I'm going to help you. I help you. You help me.
Right.
So that's not Trump's relationship with the Republican Party at all.
Right.
Not that he won't do a campaign stop for somebody, but he's not into the fundraising for others as DeSantis has been over the last couple of months. And that's what DeSantis is trying to build before the primary, with members of the Republican Party all over the country. I'm here to help you, too.
Right.
And, look, I don't know whether it'll make any difference or not. Like, I don't know if him saying, that I'm about getting the job done and not about drama will work either. There's a significant portion of Trump supporters that love the drama. They live for it. Look at last week. They love that drama. They love winning. We talked about this during 2019, 2020, 2015, 2016 about winning the war, not just the battle. And I remember getting pushback, I'm sure you do too, from Trump supporters saying, we don't care. We got to win every battle. Every battle. Doesn't matter how small it is. You win it. No, you win the war. That's what you win. You win the big ones. You don't need to be arguing everything. And they disagreed. No, argue everything. Debate everything. Win every point. A lot of Trump supporters thought that the debate last week with that host at CNN who was extremely weak was a huge moment for the Trump campaign. Well, it might have been for that moment, but it didn't last. It's not going to last. You have the mainstream media on the Sunday morning news show still talking about it because they hated him being on, but it wasn't any big moment in the entire campaign at all.
Well, it really gets back to the fundraising. And it's too early to know where the money is going to go. Trump has, by most accounts, somewhere around $120 million, or had that at the beginning of this year. I don't know how much he has right now. But let's say he safely has 90 to 100 million. I'd be surprised if he didn't have more, if he had 120 million at the beginning of this year in his war chest. That's a huge head start. But it also, if the money dries up, if the flow of money slows down, then it is possible for another candidate to come in and get a leg up on you, money-wise. And, we'll see where the big money goes. But right now, I think the donors it appears that the donors are kind of holding until DeSantis decides.
Well, if he can, if he successfully transfers his state to this campaign, the campaign money DeSantis already has in hand, he's got, what, $40 million?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Well, and the big money
45
can
million
come in very
afterwards.
quickly.
Right.
Yeah. So,
but,
it there has to be, again, and the campaigning, the spending on the ads won't even begin until the summer. So DeSantis will be in or out by then. We'll know for sure whether he's in or not.
866-90 Red Eye.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on compliance, safety, accountability. At the core of compliance, safety, accountability, or CSA, is FMCSA's Safety Measurement System, or SMS. The SMS uses 7 safety improvement categories called BASICs to examine a carrier's on-road performance and potential crash risk. The categories of BASICs are unsafe driving, hours of service compliance, driver fitness, controlled substances and alcohol, vehicle maintenance, hazardous materials compliance, and crash indicator. Under FMCSA's old measurement system, carrier performance was assessed in only 4 broad categories. Violations or crashes that have occurred within the previous 24 months of performance data are included in CSA calculations, but more recent events are weighted more heavily than older events. Violations or crashes that have happened within the past 6 months are weighted 33% more than events that occurred 6 to 12 months ago. And violations that are older than a year are weighted 66% less than recent violations. This allows a carrier to improve their CSA score gradually as they see fewer and fewer violations. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
Hey, it's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, DeSantis, will he announce this week, next week, the week after? Remember the scuttlebutt about a week and a half ago that he was going to announce this week, but I don't see any indication that he's going to.
Yeah.
But how does DeSantis win in this case? What will his strategy be? We'll get to some of that coming up. 866-90 Red Eye.
The show that got you through Biden's nuclear winter, yes, so far. Good luck. Red Eye Radio.
And I'm Gary McNamara. He is Eric Harley. So here we go. I would assume in the next month, maybe in the next couple of weeks, you could see DeSantis announce. This would be the time frame when he said maybe he decides to wait. I wonder whether some of the disintegration in his numbers is because people are saying, why won't he announce since Trump announced so soon? I don't know whether that's the case or not. It's going to be fascinating to watch this because I do think he's running. I think all the indications are that he is. He wouldn't be doing all the fundraising around the country if he didn't plan on running. So I'd be very surprised if he did not run. But if he does, Trump will immediately, attack him. I don't know how good, because the only thing he was attacking him on about a month ago was Social Security, but that didn't go anywhere, really. trying to say that he's had the support of the Bushes, and Jeb Bush came out in February and said, no, I didn't endorse him. I like him. I didn't endorse him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, okay, will that hold any water? You go to social media and you see the loyal Trump supporters. He's a rhino, things like that.
Right,
right. Does that have any effect anymore?
He's part of the establishment.
Right.
This is why the establishment really wants him. And I don't know. I don't think that it does, because it gets down to the comparison of the two. It's one thing to, I guess, try and position the opposition, your opponent, as one thing, but when compared side by side, it becomes very different. Now, that works for Trump and against Trump. Where it works for him is he served as president, and the whole COVID thing notwithstanding, the economy was doing well. Things were different.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you ask yourself, okay, does DeSantis have the ability to do that? Well, it's one thing to believe they do, but if it's been proven in 4 years of service, that's another thing. Well, where he stands out is, all right, he was able to bring his party together. And also the fact that on the issues, the two are very similar, which means there's reason to believe that the economy and things in the economy and policy would be very similar. So then it gets down to, okay, what would be the difference? DeSantis, so far, has been a more measured approach. With Trump, the question is, first of all, in creating policy, like the steel tariffs, remember he created that policy on the fly. When he announced that, and everybody was like, whoa, what are you doing? You have to work up to this, this point. You can't just throw that out there and create policy on the fly and leave everyone in your administration wondering, what just happened, right? So the unpredictable nature to that extent, that goes beyond the social media, whatever people have a problem with on social media. If they believe that his nature is unpredictable in action with any kind of policy, that's going to be a problem. If they don't trust it, then that's going to be a problem for Trump. And the question is, where does DeSantis differ? Do they believe that he can bring the party together, or do they believe he's part of the establishment and he'll be up there with Mitch McConnell just doing Mitch McConnell things? I don't, that's going to kind of be your spectrum between the two is kind of laid out, at least for now. That's kind of the layout of the two side by side.
Here's what got me, one of the things that got me thinking about this, about when DeSantis runs, and this is the leaders of the Oregon legislature, Republican, why we leaders of the Iowa legislature are endorsing Ron DeSantis for president. In our view, no one comes close to DeSantis' record and resolve. He has won the biggest fights in Florida, and he's brought all Floridians along while doing it, which is the fact, he's pushing the Republican conservative agenda, he's winning, and he's convincing people that it's the right way to go.
He can build a consensus.
Right. He says, today we help lead the Iowa State Legislature. Throughout our political careers, we've stood for conservative values and policies in our state. That's why today we're thrilled to announce our endorsement of Governor Ron DeSantis for President of the United States. As Americans, we respect those who earn their keep. Since our country's founding, we valued hard work and excellence. American prize those with a track record of success, and Republicans believe in merit as an ideal to be upheld, not as something to worry about, as many on the left see it. It's that belief in merit that's behind our endorsement of Governor DeSantis. Simply put, he's proven himself a shining example of conservative leadership, and he has accomplished an ambitious agenda that has propelled his state forward. During the pandemic, when others were pressured to close their schools, DeSantis went where the evidence led and put teachers and students back in the classroom where they belong. By the way, you and I talked about this when Trump started attacking DeSantis on COVID, and we said, you need to be quiet. We said to Trump on that one, you need to be quiet. Why? What does DeSantis have against you? You let Fauci lead. You can't win that.
Yeah, there is.
Even with Trump, that may not change a Trump supporter's mind. A Trump supporter can't argue that point.
Right.
You let Fauci lead.
The whole COVID thing is a wash.
Oh, I think so too.
Yeah, there's not a win for either one, and so anything that they try and promote, nobody wants to hear it because nobody wants to live in the moment of then. We live in the moment of today. And so everything about it. I mean, if you were to say, look, I don't think it would be a good idea for Trump to go out and promote, I was the one that got the vaccines to the market so quickly.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, back in 2020,
it was
a good idea for him to promote that, and the left was laughing at him for saying that, no, it's going to be here soon in a matter of weeks, and it was. But again, we don't live in the moment of then, we live in the moment of now.
So more recently, he's been resolute on vital issues such as school choice, tort reform, and parents' rights, mirroring many of the same successes we've accomplished here in Iowa. And he's taken on entrenched interest and vicious opponents and won battle after battle. In the recent legislative session, he and the Florida legislature passed what might rank as the most comprehensive conservative agenda in the country. And what is the net effect of all this effort? Florida has grown its state population. It's the number one state in the country for economic growth and new business creation. It has historically low unemployment, well below the national average. It has the lowest per capita state tax and state debt burden among large states. That is effective leadership, and it is what the country needs and deserves. And then they give, you can go and click to see, where they got, their statistics on Florida.
Right.
There. But I'm not going to get into the debate of what state's number one. Economically speaking, I want to focus on, what the Republicans in Iowa are using to support DeSantis. Mm-hmm. There are so many wild cards here. First off, will Trump ever get out there and promote his accomplishments instead of the election? Can he do that? The election of 2020. Can he promote his accomplishments and what he has done, compare it to Biden and say, I'm the only one because I've been tested on the national level as president of the United States. DeSantis, a good man, doesn't have the experience I have leading us, and let me finish what we started the first 4 years. That's an effective point. I've got the leadership as president.
Yep.
He's done a good job over there, but it's not going to be that way.
Right. No, I don't know. I suspect it won't.
It's going to be, I believe it's going to be extremely, vicious campaign against DeSantis. I don't know how DeSantis responds, except for the fact he responds the way he always does, sort of laugh and said, look, we're worried. We're about getting the work done. We're about doing this. He can name call all he wants, whatever. Then the reporters will be egging him on to answer.
Oh, yeah, they want the drama.
Right.
Yeah,
he does.
for sure.
So he can continue saying, look, we're about getting the work done. We're about getting the work done. We're about moving things forward. That's his style to do it. That's not my style. My style is to do. Can he keep, as the rhetoric gets hotter, can DeSantis be effective by doing that? I don't know if he can. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying he shouldn't, because it probably is the right way to campaign. I just don't know in this environment whether it will work or not, but a lot depends on a ton of different things. Trump still has a ton of legal stuff over the next year that he has to deal with. Who knows how any of that's going to turn out?
Well, then you have to ask and wonder beyond the primary. If DeSantis were to get in and win the primary, and become the nominee. How much do you have to worry about winning over the hardcore Trump supporters? The question would be, how many are there at that point? And I don't know. I haven't been able to gauge that properly as of right now. I certainly can't gauge that properly in the summer of next year. I don't know.
And then so much of it, even in the primary, goes to where Biden stands, how weak he is at a particular point. Now, you and I have noticed that there's been a constant, slow, degradation in his numbers, degrading in his polling numbers. Civic's now still at, let me just see if they still are. They were an hour ago. They've been at minus 17 the entire weekend. Yeah, still there, minus 17.
Yeah.
And we know some of we're getting up to minus 20 in the polling
right.
For Biden, and still we have a long time. We have a long time left in this presidency. So again, what if he decides to drop out and Harris is next? I don't know how this all affects it, but he is a wild card because he is so bad. Biden is so bad, and Harris would be so bad. And, you just wonder, the only one who might take it in a different direction might possibly be Newsom, just because he has the look. But will that change it? Would that change it if Newsom got in 4 months because Biden said, I'm not going to run? Would more people believe then that DeSantis is more electable than Trump at that point because it's not Biden anymore? I don't know. I'm throwing these out as all questions and any
but the gauge
analyst
changes drastically with that because the whole age thing with Biden is gone at that point.
Yep, and the age thing becomes Trump.
Yeah. Yep. And also the whole idea of new blood, right? Just all together. We don't want anybody that's been president already. Then that comes in if they've got a choice. I think it does change.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley. Coming up on the top of the hour, more on this whole thing of DeSantis versus Trump. If DeSantis announces here in the relatively near future, and just looking at the Des Moines Register, where a couple of the leaders of the Iowa legislature, Republicans, gave their endorsement to DeSantis. And I'm going to read the part of it coming up on the top of the hour that sounds like basically it could be a commercial for DeSantis. This could be an ad.
Yeah.
And so you look at it and you say, okay, is this what you pound over and over again? And would it be effective against Trump?
Yeah, right.
And is Trump going to change his campaigning?
Well, and that's the question.
The way that he campaigns.
You don't know day to day what it's going to be, right? I also saw that the former Congressman Will Hurd said he will decide soon whether he's going to run. Yeah. Don't know that anybody's calling for Will Hurd to run. All due respect, there isn't a huge group of people calling for that.
Cheney in yet? Kasich?
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.